嗨，大家好，我是 Mars。今天是2021年的10月14号，台积电在今天举行的第3季的线上法说会发布了最新的财报。那我们一起来看一下。那这份报告是英文的报告，在官网也有中文的报告，我会把链接放在描述栏。那我们就开始吧。
The format for today's event will be as follows.
Thank you, Jeff. Third quarter revenue increased 11.4% sequentially in NT terms, or 12% in dollar terms.
他先说了营业额的成长 14% 是用台币来计价，成长 12% 是用美元来计价。
Our third quarter business was driven by strong demand across all 4 growth platforms, which are smartphone, HPC, IoT, and automotive-related applications.
他说成长主要是来自于4个部分，分别是智能手机、高性能运算、IoT 以及车用电子。
Gross margin increased 1.3 percentage points sequentially to 51.3%, mainly due to the improvement in back-end profitability and a more favorable technology mix. Operating margin increased 2.1 percentage points sequentially to 41.2%, mainly due to better operating leverage.
他说他的 gross margin 就是 51.3%， 跟上个季度比改善了 1.3%， operating margin 41.2%， 跟上个季度 39.1% 比改善了 2.1%。
Overall, our third quarter EPS was 6.03 NT, and ROE was 30.7%.
最后呢 EPS 是 6.03， 然后呢 ROE 股东回报呢是 30.7%。
Now let's move on to the revenue by technology. 5 nanometer process technology contributed 18% of wafer revenue in the third quarter, while 7 nanometer accounted for 34%.
5奈米的制程呢贡献了 18%， 然后呢7奈米的制程呢贡献了 34%。
Advanced technologies, which are defined as 7 nanometer and below, accounted for 52% of wafer revenue.
他说高阶制程呢就定义是呢在7奈米以下的制程呢占了一半以上。
Now moving on to revenue contribution by platform. Smartphone increased 15% quarter over quarter to account for 44% of our third quarter revenue. HPC increased 9% to account for 37%. IoT increased 23% to account for 9%.
智能机的部分呢15%的季度增长呢，然后占了整体的 44%。 HPC 呢就是高效能运算呢，跟上个季度比成长了 9%， 占总体的 37%。 IoT 的部分呢大幅增长了，跟上个季度比增长了 23%， 占总体的呢 9%。
Automotive increased 5% to account for 4%. And
车用电子的部分呢上个季度比成长了 5%， 然后呢占总比的 4%。
And DCE decreased 2% to account for 3%.
DCE 是消费性电子呢衰退了 2%， 跟上个季度比，那占总体的 3%。
Moving on to the balance sheet.
刚刚上面讲的就是我们讲的损益表，我们已经看了营业额、营收、毛利率、EPS， 就是我们之前在上个视频里面讲到的损益表的部分。那也看了包括它的制程的分项以及它的产品的分项。那接下来我们来看一下资产负债表。
We ended the third quarter with cash and marketable securities of 976 billion NT, or
他说现金及现金等价物有975个 billion 台币。
or equivalent 35 billion US dollars. On the liability side, current liabilities increased 8 billion NT, mainly due to the increase of 24 billion in accounts payables and the increase of 6 billion in dividend payable, partially offset by the decrease of 21 billion in short-term loans.
它这里讲到就是 current liability 就是流动的资产的部分呢，大概是655个 billion 台币，然后 long term 的长期的债呢是463个 billion。
Long-term interest-bearing debt increased by 50 billion NT, mainly as we raised 49 billion corporate bonds during the quarter. On financial ratios, accounts receivable turnover days decreased 2 days to 40 days, while days of inventory remained at 85 days.
在 key ratio 的部分呢 ，account 的 turnover rate 呢是40天，然后呢，库存的周转天数呢是85天。
Now let me make a few comments on cash flow and CAPEX.
然后呢，刚刚讲完了资产负债表呢，现在就讲现金流量表。
During the third quarter, we generated about 319 billion NT in cash from operations, including some customer prepayments. Spent 189 billion in CAPEX and distributed 65 billion for fourth quarter 20 cash dividend. Short-term loans decreased 18 billion, while bonds payable increased by 49 billion.
他说这个现金流入的部分呢 ，operating 的 activity 在上次视频有没有讲到？就营业收入的部分呢，有318个 billion， 还包括有客户的预付款。然后呢，资本支出的部分呢，支出了188个 billion， 然后付了股息呢64个 billion， 然后还有一些短期的贷款呢是18个 billion。
Overall, our cash balance increased 106 billion to 854 billion at the end of the quarter.
然后在季中结束的时候呢，就第三季度结束的时候呢，增加了130个 billion 的现金流哦，然后呢，最终结束的时候有853个 billion 的现金。
In US dollar terms, our third quarter capital expenditures total 6.77 billion US dollars.
他说呢，用美金计算呢，大概是6.6个 billion 的资本支出，因为外资或外界非常关心台积电的资本支出，因为影响到后面的扩产嘛，现在芯片短缺，所以他特别有提到这一项。
I have finished my financial summary. Now let's turn on to our fourth quarter guidance. Based on the current business outlook, we expect our fourth quarter revenue to be between 15.4 billion and 15.7 billion US dollars.
就像之前我们提过了，看完财报最重要的事情，除了3个表看完，就是损益表、资产负债表以及现金流量表以后，最重要的就是下个季度的指引。那么他提到了营业额，他预计在4季度是可以做到 15.4 到 15.7 个 billion 的美金计价。
Which represents a 4.5% sequential increase at the midpoint.
大概是 4.5% 的增长。
Based on the exchange rate assumption of $1 to 28 NT, gross margin is expected to be between 51% and 53%, operating margin between 39% and 41%.
汇率的假设是1美金对28台币计价的话呢，毛利率大概是51到53%，那个 operating profit 呢大概是39到41%。
On July 12th, we announced we have completed the purchase of 5 million doses of vaccine as part of our efforts to help fight against COVID-19 pandemic in Taiwan. We recognized a small portion of the vaccine donation expense in the third quarter, and the majority of it will be recognized in the fourth quarter, which will have around 1 percentage point impact on our operating margin.
台积电呢，在3季度有捐了这个疫苗大概是49亿，接近50亿台币左右。那在第3季发生，所以他说在第4季会认列到财报里面，照他的估计，大概影响大概1% 左右。
We believe a long-term gross margin of 50% and higher is achievable.
那这个财务长说呢，他认为长线来说呢，台积电的毛利率呢可以控制在50%以上。
First, let me start with our near-term demand and inventory.
首先，这个法说会到这边呢，财务长呢 CFO 完成了他的部分，那么现在呢，进入到呢 CEO 的环节。
Moving into fourth quarter 2021, we expect our sequential growth to be supported by strong demand for our industry-leading 5nm technology.
那第一个，他就讲到说需求很强劲，主要是因为他们在5奈米的技术是领先的。
And the higher silicon content in many end devices, including automotive, PCs, servers, networking, and smartphones.
就是说需求silicon 的需求，就半导体的需求很强劲，有包括车用电子啊、networking 网络运算、PC 电脑，还有智能手机、smartphone， 还有 IoT。
And we expect our capacity to remain tight in 2021 and throughout 2022.
因为这些需求很强劲的，所以台积电的产能呢，从2021年呢会满到2022年。
Next, let me talk about TSMC's long-term growth driver and return.
那接下来讲到第二点，就是台积电长期的成长跟它的回报。
And deliver long-term profitable growth with 50% and higher gross margin for our shareholders.
他说，对股东来说呢，长期的回报呢，他相信可以有毛利率的50%以上。
Now let me talk about our Japan fab plan.
日本的建厂计划。
This fab will utilize 22-28nm technology for semiconductor wafer fabrication.
它是用22到28奈米的技术。
Fab construction is scheduled to begin in 2022, and production is targeted to begin in late 2024.
2022年开始建厂，2024年开始量产。
Finally, I'll talk about N3 and N3E status.
接下来就谈3奈米的制程，这是3奈米制程是台积电的一个杀手锏。
N3 risk production is scheduled in 2021, and production will start in second half of 2022.
在2021年的时候做了验证，预计在2022年的下半年可以实现量产。
We also introduced N3E as an extension of our N3 family. N3E will feature improved manufacturing process window with better performance, power, and yield.
这个 N3E 就是3奈米的一个延伸的一个制程，认为会有一个更好的一个 process window， 就是更大的一个制程空间，会有更好的一个成本效率、更稳定的制程。
Volume production of N3E is scheduled for 1 year after N3.
会在3奈米制程导入之后，再往后1年来导入这个3奈米的延伸。
Our 3nm technology will be the most advanced foundry technology in both PPA and transistor technology when it is introduced.
这个3奈米的制程呢，像台积电相信会是所有的晶圆代工厂里面最强的一个制程。法说会就到这里结束了。那台积电还是有提供了中文的报告，我会把链接放在荧幕下方。这边有这个上一个视频说到有它3年的一个财报，那这边还有10年的一个数据，可以看到它表现是非常稳定的一间公司。那以上就是今天的节目啦，不晓得荧幕面前的你对台积电有何想法呢？欢迎在荧幕下方留言。如果你喜欢今天的节目的话，那就记得给我按赞、订阅、分享，并且打开小铃铛。股息成长存股，打造被动收入。我们下期再见，拜拜。